times. Yes. Oh, Fourth Tribe Entertainment. It's gonna be a new day. It's gonna be a new way. You must think that you're our king. Yehuda Dean, Fourth Tribe ENT. It's gonna be a new day. It's the beginning of a new way. You could never be our king. Yehuda Dean, rep Yah with me. It's the dawn of 400 years, 400 years since we shed our first tears, 400 years since my ancestors slain, 400 years since we all knew his name. 400 in this land, Babylon, the bases of many kings. Yah's name is gone. We are the mighty Yehuda Dean. Lions of Yah, praise Yah with me. The righteous, Yah, the holy, Yah, the creator, Yah, the only, Yah, the righteous, Yah, the holy, Yah, the creator, Yah, the only, Yah. He is our king, our savior, and our judge, Yehuda Dean. Yahweh is righteous. He is our king, our savior, and our judge, Yehuda Dean. Yahweh is righteous. It's gonna be a new day. It's gonna be a new way. You must think that you're our king, Yehuda Dean, Fourth Tribe ENT. It's gonna be a new day. It's the beginning of a new way. You could never be our king, Yehuda Dean, rep Yah with me. It's the dawn of 400 years, 400 years since you stole our names, 400 years since Willie Lynch made the slaves, 400 years and we still remain, 400 years of living with Cain, 400 years and we still a slave, slaving on the job, slaving on the block, slaving in the jail and in our hearts. We are the mighty Yehuda Dean. Lions of Yah, praise Yah with me. The righteous, Yah, the holy, Yah, the creator, Yah, the only, Yah, the righteous, Yah, the holy, Yah, the creator, Yah, the only, Yah. He is our king, our savior, and our judge, Yehuda Dean. Yahweh is righteous. It's gonna be a new day. It's gonna be a new way. You must think that you're our king, Yehuda Dean, Fourth Tribe ENT.
Well, thank you. As I said last week, it was a subject matter that I was very hesitant in teaching. I was very reluctant in teaching that for years. I had a lot of reservations about it. Tyree and myself discussed it years ago. He disagreed with me, and since there was some controversy, I wanted him to be right. Like Moses told one of the serpents, I wish all the people were prophets. And as far as me, I wish all the days was holy. I wish every day is holy. And I don't take a great honor if I'm teaching about something that might diminish what many of us have perceived as being holy. Because I wish everybody rejoiced in the Almighty 7 days a week. And so I don't like to have the kind of ministry that I put any limitations on the Almighty's laws at all. I don't like to minimize it. I only like to exalt. But I found out in teaching the Almighty's word, I would be exalting the law and not diminishing. So we're going to exalt the great law on the Sabbath and try to answer all the questions that you might have and that the people in our listening audience might have about the Sabbath. And we beckon them to send those questions in across the internet at www.houseofisrael.org. Or either send them to questions@houseofisrael.org. Questions@houseofisrael.org. So send your questions right now, because what we're going to teach you is to prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt that everything that most people regarded about the Sabbath day is totally incorrect. So we're going to begin by opening our Holy Scriptures to the book of Genesis, the first chapter. This might not be the kind of class that a lot of you all like and that you enjoy when I do all the talking and you just sit down, because today you're going to read more scriptures than you read in years. I'm going to have you read one scripture at a time. And I want to make sure that you understand these scriptures, because one day you will be commissioned to teach this word and teach these scriptures. Because what we're going to bring forth right now is very unpopular. Some people hold the Sabbath very dear, and we love that. And they swear by the fact that evening to evening is the Sabbath day. But first of all, where in the scriptures did the Almighty say evening to evening is his Sabbath days? I repeat, where in the scriptures did Yahweh say that we measure evening to evening for our Sabbath days? The only Sabbath day that we were to keep from even to evening is the Day of Atonement. It was quite unique from all other Sabbath days. But before we get into that particular point, we're going to get into what is a day. Because if you don't understand what the first day is, then certainly you will never understand what the seventh day is. Because it is the seventh day that Yahweh blessed and sanctified and hallowed. It is the seventh day that he gave a name to. And the name of the seventh day was the Sabbath, which means rest, to cease. So let's go with Genesis, the first chapter, starting at the first verse.
In the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters.
In other words, in the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth. Everything that we know the Creator created. But it said the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. That deep that we are speaking of is water. Darkness, water was everywhere. All that you can see up, above, beside, and below was water. And there were waters. And it said, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Keep reading.
And Elohim said, let there be light. And there was light.
let there be light, and there was light. So where did the first light come from? Really surprising to most people, most books that I read, most scholars that I have heard, says that the first light came from the sun, but that is absolutely false. The sun and moon was not even created into the fourth day of the week. So the first light did not come as a result of the sun. The first light came because Yah said, let there be light. And there was light because he said it. And the light came from his word. And his word was not Christ. Let that be understood. See, a lot of people also would like to teach that the Almighty, he's Yahweh, but he has a word, and the word is Christ. So if we buy that, then when Christ came to earth, the Almighty was deaf and dumb. He couldn't speak. He didn't have a word. The word left him. And we know that it's not so. We know that it's not so. We know that the Almighty's always had a voice and a word, and his word was never named another person. His word is not a different, unique person than himself. But the Almighty made man in his image and after his likeness. And everything we have, the Creator has. He made us not only in his image. And you see an image of yourself when you look in the mirror in a water. You're looking at a reflection of yourself. So you're seeing your image. But not only did Yah make man in his own image, he made man after his likeness. And you don't have a voice called Clarence and Boogaloo. Your voice is part of you, and so is the Almighty. But they had to try to put somebody else in the scenario, so they made his voice and said his word was Christ. And his word became flesh. So if his word became flesh, that meant he didn't have no word from now on. He was just in there heaven sitting down and couldn't talk or nothing. But we know that that's just nonsense. But let's go on a little further. The first light came because Yahweh said, let there be light. And there was light. Continue.
And Elohim saw the light, that it was good. And Elohim divided the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day.
Now notice what he did. The Almighty divided the light from the darkness. And he had a name for both parts. The light he called day. And the darkness he called night. You look up night, you look up darkness, it means black. You look up day, it means something that's bright. Day means light. Light is something that has illumination. Something that gives off light. So we know that the day was called light. That's what the Almighty called day. Now people call day a 24-hour period. There is no such thing in the scriptures as a 24-hour. Nowhere. There is no 24-hour day. The longest day that you can have is a 12-hour day. It's impossible to have a 24-hour day. And it's impossible to have a 24-hour night. And they're distinctly different. The Almighty's trying to wake up our people. Day is light. That's a fact, undeniable. And darkness he called night. Now continue. So we know what a day is. A day is light. And how do we know that? Because of Genesis 1 and 5. And what did Genesis 1 and 5 say?
And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night.
And the word light comes from the Hebrew word yom, which means warm. It means warm hours. The warm hours. Another definition is from sunrise to sunset. Another definition is sunset to sunset. But the point it is, the word day means light. And it's the light part of the 24 hours that we call day. We never call day night in scriptures. I repeat, in scriptures, day is never called night. and night is never called day. They're distinctly different. They're different all the way in through the book. And the only people that will try to make them the same is a person that's ignorant to the fact. That means they just don't know any better. Or somebody that's been taught better, but they refuse to accept anything differently than they've been taught because they are arrogant and they're haughty and they're hard-headed. Just like some people, we can show all day that Christ is not Yahweh. That Yahweh is a creator. And Christ is just another creature. But they'll walk away saying they're the same. Even though the Almighty said they're different. Even though the Christ of the New Testament said they're different. Even though all the apostles in the New Testament said they're different. They'll walk away believing it because they have made a deity out of their pastor. And that pastor has taught them that it is the same. And so therefore they will not allow Yahweh to compete with their pastor. Anytime Yahweh says something different than their pastor, they will excuse what Yahweh said and accept what their pastor says. This is what they will do all the time. But I just wanted you to get some definitions. And in that same Genesis 1 and 5, not only is they defined, but the Almighty defines something else. And what is that? Read that 5th verse again.
And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night.
So we got two definitions. We got two biblical definitions we can put in our pocket. Light, day is called night or light. And night, the darkness he called night. That's what he called darkness, night. Now I want you to look at some examples of what I'm speaking at. Look in the book of Genesis, the 1st chapter. I want you to read the 14th to the 16th verse. Or 14th to the 18th verse. One verse at a time.
And Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven.
Let there be lights in the firmaments. Let there be things that illuminate, that glow, that cast out rays. Let there be light in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night. See, we already had a day and a night. We didn't need the sun to create a day and night. There was day before there was any sun. There was day before when there was no other light. Just the light of the Almighty's word illuminated the earth. Now some people argue with me and say without the sun we can't have no light. Well, the only way you can prove that as a fact is not have a sun. And the Almighty said there's always going to be the sun and the moon. The ordinance of the sky will not always be. So we're not able to do away with the sun to prove that the Almighty has the capacity to lighten up the earth merely by his word. But we know it. As the scripture said, that the Almighty told his servant to know, believe, and understand. And the things that I'm going to show you, it will take you beyond just faith. You're going to know things, and you're going to believe things, and you're going to understand things. Because we're going to make you understand, because the Almighty's word is something that's totally understandable. He said his way is so plain that a fool should not err therein. And after we finish, you're going to find out that what we have believed was the truth for years were just other lies that the enemy has indoctrinated us with. Now keep reading.
And Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.
So these lights are for what? Signs, seasons, days, and years. All right, keep reading.
And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day.
Now they want to make like the day is all one thing. They're all together. But the Almighty said he created two great lights. The greater light to rule the day, which is light, and the lesser light to rule the night. So we got two great lights, one to rule the day, the other to rule the night. Keep reading.
He made the stars also, and Elohim set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night.
And he did this to rule over the day and over the night.
And to divide the light from the darkness.
And to divide the light from the darkness. Because the light is day and darkness is night.
And Elohim saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day.
Now, what does this mean, the evening and the morning? Some people have read this and think that all that they got is the evening and the morning. What is the evening? Who can define evening? Evening does not mean night, as many of you all suppose that it meant. And morning certainly does not mean day. There's a distinct difference between evening and night. And there's a difference between the morning and the day. But all days have to have an evening and a morning in it. Evening comes last. There's always a day before an evening. Anytime you examine the scriptures, you will never see an evening that precedes the day. You will see the eve of the 14th day, which means the end of the 14th day. Now, this revelation we have that we got from the Creator, does it prove that we have been keeping our holy days wrong? No, all of our holy days have been kept actually when they're supposed to be kept. And what I'm showing you will not interfere with us keeping none of our holy days. They are not interfering with a holy day. We don't have to set back or set up a day because of the Almighty's revelation that He's revealing to us. We that have been following the new moon have always kept His holy days at the proper time. The only thing that we did in our class is that many of us took the fifth night or the sixth night and made it holy when it was not holy. We kept it as holy when it was not holy. Now, is that a sin? The truth of the matter is no, we never sinned. Because to sin, you as a people would have to break a law. You're not breaking a law when you sanctify Yahweh. You did not break the law because you dignified the Almighty and elevated Him and magnified Him. There was no law broke on your part or my part by keeping that evening holy. Now, what can we do today if we find out that Friday night is not a holy night? What should we do and how should we act? First of all, I want to establish a couple more points, and we're going to get right into that, how we conduct ourselves on what we call Friday night. First of all, let me show you some examples of the Almighty's Word. Let's go to Genesis, the 2nd chapter. Start reading.
Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the hosts of them. And on the seventh day, Elohim ended His work which He had made.
See, most people thought the Almighty ended His work that He made on the 6th day. And they thought this was an error or misprint. But the Almighty said He ended all the work He made, I repeat, and on the 7th day, Elohim ended His work, which He had made, and He rested on the 7th, what? 7th light, because that's what the word day means. Day means light. Light means day, when you're looking at the time spans of a day. Day means light. He rested on the 7th light. from all his work which he had made. I repeat, he rested on the seventh day, or he rested on the seventh light, not night, but light. Oh, that's what day means, light. He called the light day. And Elohim blessed the seventh day. And what did that mean? Day and night? No. Because if he wanted them to be included, he would have included them, as I will show you that he did. But right here, he's only talking about the span of a day or a light. And he rested the seventh night and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which Elohim created and made. Also go to the book of Genesis, the 7th chapter. Like I said, you're going to read more today than you have in a long time. You act like you've been in school again. This is just a thing for education. The Almighty's house is supposed to be a house where you learn at. You're not going to see me up here throwing no flips and throwing the handkerchief down and doing the splits and all that and falling out, but you're going to learn, and that's what you're here for. According to Genesis 7 chapter, would you read the 4th verse?
For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights.
Now, if a day is a night, why didn't he just say 40 days? If a day means night, why did he say 40 days? Because you were educated and you trust in the Almighty's word, because you know that according to the book of Proverbs, 30th chapter, the 4th and 5th verse, says every word of Yahweh is pure. Every word. Therefore, we got to magnify these words. We can't minimize it. We got to look at it and see what all is in them. Then we can't diminish from what's in these words. And it said he did what? Read that again.
For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth.
Now after 7 days, I'm going to cause it to rain upon the earth.
40 days.
40 days.
And 40 nights.
And 40 nights. So how long is it going to rain? 40 days and 40 nights. Now let's go to the 12th verse of the same chapter. What does it say?
And the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights.
Almighty repeats. We know that that also means 40 nights, because we know a night was never called day, and night does not mean day, and night is not defined as light. We know that. Let us go to the 8th chapter. And I need one person to show me where a day means from evening to evening, as the world has always accepted. Evening from evening. Show me one verse. I don't need 2 or 3 to convince me. One thing is enough for me to know that it's not in error. It's not out of context. That it must mean what it says. What does the 8th chapter say? I want you to read the 8th chapter, the 22nd verse.
While the earth remaineth seed time and harvest.
And our earth is always seed time and harvest. It's always cold and heat. And our earth is always summer and winter. And the earth is always have day and night should not cease. So night is never going to become part of day. It'll never reach a point where you say, well, this is beautiful. Right now we don't have no nights. It's just all 24-hour day. And the night is included in the day. When night is not included in the day, that's a heathenistic practice that our people learned from the Babylonians. And that we learned from the Jewish people. And they kept on, and we just concluded that everything they teach is right, since we know they stole the little bit they had from our foreparents. And I'm here to tell the Israelites to think that they can go to the Jewish man and watch him and learn from him that they're mistaken. I'm here to tell you that the Jewish man is a heathen. And even though he studied the ways of our fathers, he always tried to do something greater than the law. He always tried to outdo the Almighty. And so it's nothing for him to change something and alter something to fit what he believes is right. And right now, we're under Babylonian influence. The Bible is under Babylonian influence too. The Old Testament is influenced by the pagans. Even in the Holy Scripture, even in the Old Testament, there's heathenistic influence. The Almighty only named 1 month of the year. The only month of the year that he gave a name to was the first month, and he called that the month of Abib. Every other month was the second month, third month, fourth month, fifth month, sixth month, and the seventh month. But later on, when our people came out of the Babylonian captivity, you'll notice that we got names for every month of the year. But they're not Hebrew names, they're Babylonian names. And they're not names that the Creator gave us, but they're names that we borrowed from our captors. As we're born everything that we got now. Just as we borrowed what's day and night. And what's right and wrong, we borrowed it from a heathen. And the Almighty said he never gave his word to anyone else but Israel. So consequently, the only one that can educate you to the total truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, is a black Israelite servant of the Almighty. He has to be a black Israelite that is the servant of the Almighty. Being a black Israelite is not enough, because he could be under paganism, as most of the Israelites are. That's mean most of the Israelites in the United States, black, are serving and worshiping someone else outside of the Almighty. But let's read a little further. Let's go to the book. And then alter something to fit what he believes is right. And right now, we're under Babylonian influence. The Bible is under Babylonian influence too. The Old Testament is influenced by the pagans. Even in the Holy Scripture, even in the Old Testament, there's heathenistic influence. The Almighty only named 1 month of the year. The only month of the year that he gave a name to was the first month, and he called that the month of Abib. Every other month was the second month, third month, fourth month, fifth month, sixth month, and the seventh month. But later on, when our people came out of the Babylonian captivity, you'll notice that we got names for every month of the year. But they're not Hebrew names, they're Babylonian names. And they're not names that the Creator gave us, but they're names that we borrowed from our captors. As we're born everything that we got now. Just as we borrowed what's day and night. And what's right and wrong, we borrowed it from a heathen. And the Almighty said he never gave his word to anyone else but Israel. So consequently, the only one that can educate you to the total truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, is a black Israelite servant of the Almighty. He has to be a black Israelite that is the servant of the Almighty. Being a black Israelite is not enough, because he could be under paganism, as most of the Israelites are. That's mean most of the Israelites in the United States, black, are serving and worshiping someone else outside of the Almighty. But let's read a little further. Let's go to the book of Exodus 24. Exodus 24 chapter. And it will serve a lot of y'all well to have pen and paper so you can write down these things. Now, the Almighty come in the volume of the book, and that's what I'm coming to prove his point. I'm coming in the volume. I'm not going to give you one or two verses and say, well, just accept this. I'm going to show you beyond a shadow of a doubt that what we're doing, what we're teaching is the absolute truth, and what the world is doing and what every Sabbath day church in Cincinnati and elsewhere is doing is totally false. Totally. Oh, they got the whole thing wrong. The days, the months, everything. So even when they get this little bit right, they still wrong. Now let's go on. Exodus 24, read the 18th verse.
As Moshe went into the midst of the cloud and got him up into the mount. And Moshe was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights.
40 days with an S on it and 40 nights, which are different. He didn't just say 40 days. He said 40 days and 40 nights. Now go to the 34th chapter of this same book. The 28th verse, what is saying?
And he was there with Yah 40 days and 40 nights. He did neither eat bread nor drink water.
So that Moses fasted 40 days and 40 nights. Distinct difference. Also, if you go to the book of Deuteronomy, the 9th chapter. Now, if you don't have pen and paper, take your pen and mark these spots off in your scripture. The 9th chapter of Deuteronomy. I read the 9th to the 11th verse.
When I was gone up into the mount to receive the tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant, which Yah made with you, then I abode in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. I neither did eat bread nor drink water. And Yah delivered unto me 2 tables of stone, written with the finger of Elohim. And on them was written, according to all words which Yah spake with you in the mount, out of the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. It came to pass, at the end of 40 days and 40 nights, that Yah gave me the 2 tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant.
Also, the 18th verse said the same thing all through the book. Like I said, I don't want to be redundant to bring home this point. That night does not mean day, and day does not mean night. Continue.
Verse 11.
Yes, and then read the 18th verse.
And it came to pass at the end of 40 days and 40 nights, that Yah gave me the 2 tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant. And I fell down before Yah as at the first, 40 days and 40 nights. I did neither eat bread nor drink water, because of all your sins in which ye sinned, and doing wickedly in the sight of Yah, to provoke him to anger.
Let's skip over some, because I think all through the law you see this 40 days and 40 nights with Moses. So let's go to 1 Kings. Let's see if the language changed a little bit in 1 Kings, the 19th chapter. Let's see if the other writers have the same understanding or if they're different from Moses. Maybe Abraham, maybe Adam, maybe Moses didn't know what they were talking about. Maybe some of y'all were right, and our listening audience and all these prophets were wrong. But according to 1 Kings, the 19th chapter, read the 8th verse.
And he arose and did eat and drink, and went in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights.
Talking about Elijah when he went up on the mountain, he fasted 40 days, or he didn't fast, but he went in the strength of the food that he ate for 40 days and 40 nights. Also look in the book of 1 Samuel, the 19th chapter. We're in 1 Kings 19. Let's go 1 Samuel 19. You have it? Read the 24th verse.
And he stripped off his clothes also, and prophesied before you in like manner, and lay down naked all that day and all that night. Wherefore they say, is Saul also among the prophets?
Because he laid down, he was trying to humble himself. And Saul acted like he was a humble man, and he laid down all that what day and all that night. Let you know that day and night is separate. They're not used together. Also, if you look in the book of 1 Kings, the 8th chapter, 1 Kings. Now, according to 1 Kings, the 8th chapter, this is when our great father Solomon built the house of Yah and prayed to our people and prayed to the Almighty that if we have any problems, that we should pray toward that house that Yahweh built for us. And I want you to read the 57 to the 59th verse.
Yah our Elohim be with us, as he was with our fathers. Let him not leave us, nor forsake us, that he may incline our hearts unto him, to walk in all his ways, and to keep him, and his statutes, and his judgments, which he commanded our fathers. And let these my words, wherewith I have made supplication before Yah, be nigh unto Yah our Elohim.
Let them be near to our Yah Elohim night and day. So we can pray night and day, not just a day. Not just a night, but night and day. That he may maintain the cause of his servant and the cause of his people Yisrael at all times, as the matter shall require. Now notice what happened to our father Jacob. And notice how he earned the great name that many of y'all refuse to identify yourself with. You want to identify with Master Charlie's name, the slave master that raped your mom. You want to dignify his name. You want his name to be always associated with you and your offspring. Just as the Almighty said he would always be identified with being the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Many of you all will always be identified with Master Charlie because you got his name and you refuse to give him back his name because you love Master. But I'm going to show you what our father Jacob did to earn the name that I and many of you all now wear. Let's start in Genesis, the 32nd chapter. Let's start reading the 24th verse and see if we can make sense out of what is being said.
And Yaakov was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day.
Until the breaking of the day. Let me tell you what the break of the day means. That means until morning. Because in order for there to be a morning, there got to be a break from that night. And you have to see day breaking in. That is what they call day break. That is what they call morning. That is what they call the word by the name of dawn. It is dawning towards another day. It is breaking towards another day. Day is breaking into the light. And that is called morning. But read again. And he was there, was left alone, and there wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. Keep reading.
And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Yaakov's thigh was out of joint.
And when the angel seen that he prevailed not against our great father Jacob, who was not going to let him go, even though the day was breaking, even though he would see his face, he would not let him go until he would bless him. And he touched the hollow of our father's thigh joint and was out of joint. His thigh was, just by merely touching it. So that forward seed into this stuff they know is jiu-jitsu and judo and karate and all the rest of that stuff. That was something where he knew the body so well and the body parts that all he had to do is touch it in the right place and it jumped automatically out of joint. Now y'all ain't never seen nothing that bad. Nothing. And that's how bad these angels were, because they knew everything about the body, because they was in the presence of the man that made the human body. So every delicate weakness of the body, all the strength they knew, because they were with the Creator who created all things. Continue.
And the hollow of Yaakov's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, "Let me go, for the day breaketh." And he said, "I will not let thee go, except thou bless me."
And see, a lot of y'all, it's easy to let you go. All you have to do is tell you to give you more money if you work on the Sabbath day, and you'll let the Almighty go in a minute. Say there's a football game somewhere, and you'll let the Almighty go in a minute. There's something else on the Sabbath you can do, and you'll let the Almighty go in a minute. But even at the sake of losing his life, our father Jacob was wrestling for you and I, attempting to give us an eternal blessing. And he would not let the angel go. Even though he might have his life taken, he would not let him go. Even that after the hollow of his joint was out of joint, he would not let him go until he received a blessing. Because he knows what a blessing is. He knows what money is. And that's reading the scripture says, money has a price, but the blessings from the Almighty are invaluable. There is no monetary amount that you can put on a blessing. You can't say, give me a $5,000 blessing or a $10,000 blessing like you writing the Ike or one of them and getting conned. The true blessings from the Almighty don't even mean money. They mean other tangible things that far exceed money. It means peace of mind. That means that you have someone that's going to lay you down at night and wake you up in the morning and watch your children when you're not around and walk with you by the way when you're walking through the shadow of death, as we are in America. And yes, when we thread our foot on the soils of America, Jacob, you're walking through the valley of the shadow of death. There's no doubt about that at all. We are here. But as he said, I'll fear no evil. And Jacob feared no evil. He wanted a blessing, and he wasn't coming short of that. Let's continue.
And he said unto him, "Let me go, for the day breaketh."
Let me go, for the day breaketh.
"I will not let thee go, except thou bless me." And he said unto him, "What is thy name?" And he said, "Yaakov."
We're in the book of Genesis, the 32nd chapter.
And he said, "Thy name shall be called no more Yaakov, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with Elohim and with men, and hast prevailed."
So our father not only had power with man, he had power with Elohim and with man, and he won over. He prevailed. Continue.
And Yaakov asked him and said, "Tell me, I pray thee, thy name." And he said, "Wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name?" And he blessed him there. And Yaakov called the name of that place Peniel. For I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. And as he passed over Peniel, the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Israel eat not of the sinew which rank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh, unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Yaakov's thigh in the sinew that shrank.
Now you notice also in the 31st verse, some of y'all missed what happened here. It says, and he passed over Peniel, the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. The sun didn't rise until after the day had already broken. So daybreak don't mean when the sun has risen. Day starts before the sun is risen. The sun was just the light to rule over the day. That's all. It don't mean when the sun is out and up that it is now day. The sun just came to rule over the day, but the day was already there. And the day started in the morning, and morning means dawn, and dawn means the break of day. So anytime you see that break of day, where that light is beginning to take over, breaking through the darkness, you're now entering a day. So that's what a day is. And if you also turn to the book of 2 Samuel, when we teach on the holy days, we got to find out what a day is. Or you might call yourself having a holy night. It's like the heathens got Halloween night. Ain't no such thing as a holy night. Halloween night and holy night and Noel. They're just making a fool out of you with all that foolishness. They're doing it with some miseducated people. Just like the word Noel. What does El mean? El is a short name of Elohim, signifying Yahweh's name. He's our Elohim. Well, what do you think no means? That means we don't have a name. Noel, Noel, and y'all sing that at Christmas, and all you're doing is making a fool out of yourself, thinking you're glorifying the Almighty, and you're singing Noel, Noel, Noel. Well, that's what's happening if you're miseducated. The devil will trick you every time you look around. And he has you making a fool out of yourself because you're not paying attention to him. As I said, the fear of Yah is the beginning of knowledge. The beginning. So we got to go back to the beginning even before we even know how to talk to our children. Even before we can start teaching them about holy days and Sabbath days. We got to go back and get the fundamentals. We got to start at the beginning. And once you start at the beginning, then you'll find out that everything your pastor taught you was wrong. Everything. But let's start first in the beginning. Now the book of 2 Samuel, go to the 2nd chapter. I want you to notice what happened here so you can understand what I'm trying to show you. Look in the book, the 2nd Samuel, the 2nd chapter. Read the 32nd verse real slow.
And they took up Asahel and buried him in the sepulchre of his father, which was in Bethlehem, and Joab and his men went all night.
Now notice what they're doing. They're traveling all night.
And they came to Hebron at break of day.
So they came to Hebron at the break of day. So when does the day start? In the morning or in the evening? The day starts in the morning. That's when the break of day. You ain't never looked at nobody in the evening and said, oh boy, day is breaking and it's getting dark. How is day breaking and it's getting dark? If it's getting dark, day is over. You're going into night. You can't have a break of day at dark. The day breaks forth into the day, into the night. So when they traveled all night until the what? They break again. Here the Almighty showing you through his infallible word that everything that we've been taught is wrong, and that we got to get back at the beginning to understand his ways. As I said, day starts at dawn or morning. And the day don't begin when the sun has risen, but it begins when it breaks into the night. That is called morning, but it is mostly light. Now, let's reach another important point. It said the evening and the morning were the second day, the first day. So if the morning means light, it's getting light, it's breaking in. Then what does evening mean? Does evening means night? Huh? Does evening mean night?
No.
And how you know evening does not mean light? Because all you have to do is go back to Genesis 1 and 5. And Elohim called the light day, the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were not the first night, but evening and morning are the first day. So in other words, in order to be a day, you have to have a morning, and you have to have an evening. So the evening is part of the day because day means light. It don't mean black. But it is evening is when the day is going out. You look up evening in a concordance, it means a covering with a texture or to intermix. It's the part of the day where the light is being intermixed with darkness. And that's what you call evening. Morning comes from the Hebrew word booger. So if anybody walk up to you and say booger tov, they mean good morning. Tov means good. Tov means good. Tov ma'or means very good. If you say booger tov, that means good morning. That's what the word booger tov means. Good morning. Booger tov. And the word tov means morning. And morning means to be light at the first crack of dawn. That's what it means. Now, I want to show you some examples of night, since I showed you a few examples of the day. If we go to the book of Genesis 19th chapter. Genesis again 19. What does that say? Genesis 19, the 33rd to the 35th verse.
And they made their father drink wine that night.
And who is this that made their father drink wine that night? That was Ammon and Moab, the daughters of who? Lot. They thought they were the only people on earth once they heard that great explosion from the Almighty destroying the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. And they thought there was nobody else on earth. They couldn't imagine all that noise, all that light, that large explosion just consuming those people. They thought the whole earth was consumed. And when they went in the cave with their father, they knew that, or should I say, they thought that there were no more men on earth. And they knew that the first law of nature is not self-preservation, as you have been taught. But the first law of nature is procreation. And it's snapped in. There's no man but our daddy. So we need babies. We got to see daddy. So one of them got the daddy drunk one night and started reading.
And they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father. And he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose.
They had him so drunk he didn't even know when they laid down, nor when she arose. And she knew. Go ahead.
And it came to pass on the morrow.
Now, I told you morrow means the next night. Morrow always means the next day. Notice one laid that night, and it came to pass tomorrow, which means the next day. That's what morrow means. Continue.
That the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father.
Yesternight. So this is another night. Then not yesterday, but yesternight. Because there's a difference between a day and the night. She didn't say yesterday. She said yesternight. Y'all ain't used to that kind of talk. Or you think that you get from one night to another, oh, that's yesterday. It's not yesterday, because day is only night. Day is only light. So that was yesternight. Keep reading.
I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go down in, and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him. And he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose.
Elohim is not a man, he will not lie. Not the son of a man, he will not die. We confirm his word, we the world's light. We praising Yahweh, we the full tribe. Elohim is not a man, he will not lie. Not the son of a man, he will not die. We confirm his word, we the world's light. We praising Yahweh, we the full tribe, full tribe. Now who have believed our report? And to whom is his mighty arm revealed? We sing the Yah with skill. In the land of the north, in the valleys and hills, they flee from the instruments, we playing with skill. Only for Yahweh, won't say for another. And the lions in the street that's prophesied off. Me and my brothers, we in the prison house to our arraignment. You're breaking up the fallow ground, hearts hard as pavement. This world needs a saving, but not Christ, it's all Yah. Our bones spew the fire. He has spoken all that he requires. The fear Yah, call upon his name. He takes away the rain if we take his holy word in vain. Elohim is not a man, he will not lie. Not the son of a man, he will not die. We confirm his word, we the world's light. We praising Yahweh, we the full tribe. Elohim is not a man, he will not lie. Not the son of a man, he will not die. We confirm his word, we the world's light. We praising Yahweh, we the full tribe, full tribe. Before the Elohims I will sing, with the dances and music upon the strings. It's 10 the order of Yahweh's servant purges the word of Yahweh's gathering. It's so be quiet, a new song for the nation to sing along. The wait is long to exit right out of this Babylon. So much confusion, the heart abuses. The facts we listen to it. The reason why our sins is inducing. So now we return back to our Abba. No longer martyrs in his laws or a restarter. It take these false idols off the market. The breathe we walk into this dead carcass. The honor Yah's how these lights will sparkle. Remember, Elohim is not a man, he will not lie. Not the son of a man, he will not die. We confirm his word, we the world's light. We praising Yahweh, we the full tribe. Elohim is not a man, he will not lie. Not the son of a man, he will not die. We confirm his word, we the world's light. We praising Yahweh, we the full tribe, full tribe. Elohim is not a man, he will not lie. Not the son of a man, he will not die. We confirm his word, we the world's light. We praising Yahweh, we the full tribe. Elohim is not a man, he will not lie. Not the son of a man, he will not die. We confirm his word, we the world's light. We praising Yahweh, we the full tribe, full tribe.